Good evening, everyone. I have pleasure in opening the Ordinary Council meeting on the 25th of June 2024 at 6:31 p.m. and welcome all those in attendance. I wish to inform you that the meeting will be live streamed and recorded. The video will appear on the Council's website and YouTube channel. The public gallery will not be recorded unless accidentally, and only a participant in the meeting, namely a person asking questions at public question time, will be live streamed and recorded. If you wish to ask a question at public question time, your voice and image will be recorded and live streamed. If you do not consent to your voice and image being recorded and live streamed to the public, then you'll need to leave the meeting. By staying at this meeting, you consent to your voice and image being live streamed and recorded. No other electronic, visual, audio recording device or instrument can be used to record the proceedings of this meeting without prior written permission from Council as outlined in the City of Belmont Standing Orders 2017, Section 8.17. We now move to 1.1, the swearing in. I invite our special guest, Mr. Alan Richardson, OAM JP, to please come forward to officiate the swearing in of the City of Belmont's newly elected member. I invite Janet Powell to please come forward to read aloud the elected member's declaration.
I've been asked to swear in the councillor for the City of Belmont as per the Local Government Regulations of 1998 and the Local Government Act.
As Mayor, I welcome you, Janet Powell, Councillor Janet Powell, to the City of Belmont, and thank you for your commitment to serve the Council, the City of Belmont and its community. I look forward to working with you. Acknowledgement of country. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional owners of this land. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Councillor Davis, would you please read aloud the affirmation of civic duty and responsibility on behalf of councillors and officers present?
Rossi. I make this affirmation in good faith and declare that I will dutifully, faithfully, honestly and with integrity fulfil the duties of my office for all the people in the City of Belmont according to the best of my judgment and ability. I will observe the City's Code of Conduct and Standing Orders to ensure efficient, effective and orderly decision-making within this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Apologies and leave of absence. I have received an apology from Mr Murphy, Director of Infrastructure Services. Leave of absence. I note that Councillor VJ is currently on leave of absence. Declarations of interest. Will the Manager of Governance and Legal please advise of those declarations made to date, please?
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. We have received no declarations of financial interest for tonight's meeting. We have received declarations of interest affecting impartiality as follows. Councillor Kulditsky, item 12.6. I'm a proxy to the Public Art Advisory Panel and currently serving on the panel. Councillor Davis, item 12.6. I'm an elected member. Mayor Rossi, item 12.7. Member of the RSL Club and Seniors Hub. Councillor Davis, item 12.7. Member of the Belmont Oasis. Member of the Belmont Sports Recreation Club. Councillor Kulditsky, item 12.7. I'm a member of the Ruth Faulkner Library. And Councillor Sessions, item 12.7. Wilson Park Precinct redevelopment is listed in the budget and I manage a Facebook page called Wilson Park Upgrade. Peat Park is also listed and I am a committee member for the Belmont Junior Football Club whose club rooms are at Peat Park. Thank you, Mayor Rossi.
Thank you. Announcements. There are no announcements this evening. Disclaimer. I wish to draw attention to the disclaimer notice contained within the agenda document and advise members of the public that any decisions made at the meeting tonight can be revoked pursuant of the Local Government Act of 1995. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decisions until formal notification in writing from the City has been received. 4.3. Declarations by members which have not given due consideration all matters contained within the business papers present before the meeting. Are there any declarations to be made by councillors? There are none. Public question time. Responses to questions taken on notice from the ordinary council meeting of the 28th of May 2024 are noted in the agenda for Mr Harris, Ms Hollands, on behalf of the Belmont Resident Ratepayers Action Group, Ms Hollands herself, Mr Bell, Mr Scarfenstein, Mr Cardoso, Ms Silenza, Ms Brown, Ms G, Mr Rossellini. Questions by members of the public. It is 6:39, an open public question time, and draw attention of the public go to the rules of public question time as written in question time form. In accordance with section 6.3 and 6.4 of Standing Orders, Local Laws 2017, members of the public are reminded they must extend due courtesy and respect to both councillors and employees. Please do not use inappropriate, objectionable or untruthful expressions or expressions that reflect adversely on the character or actions of councillors or employees. If any expression is deemed inappropriate, you'll be directed to withdraw the expression and apologise. If you do not comply, I'll have to end your question. Lastly, I remind and caution everyone present at this meeting to refrain from making defamatory statements, especially considering that these proceedings are now being live streamed. Section 6.2 of the City Standing Orders 2017 states members of the public can ask up to 2 questions and have no more than 2 minutes per question is allowed for everyone to ask their questions before proceedings continue. However, as presiding member tonight, I will allow up to 4 questions per person. I have 5 members of the public who have given prior notice to asking questions, these being Martin Cardoso, Paul Hitt, Jared Harris, Liz Hollands. Bragg questions on behalf from Liz. Now, are there anybody else in the gallery who wishes to ask questions? Janet G, Luigi Rossellini. Rosalind, sorry. Matt Russell. Thank you. I'll now invite each questioner to come to the lectern. Please state your name and suburb. Martin Cardoso, please.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors, city staff and fellow residents. My name's Martin Cardozo and I live at 50 Lyle Street, Redcliffe. Mr Mayor, are you personally satisfied with the level of community engagement prior to the approval of the Stanton project?
I will make a decision at the Stanton item, please.
I'm not asking for a decision, sir.
I'm not going to ask it on the run, no.
Okay. Mr Mayor, do you recognise that airport outbound traffic, that is traffic leaving the airport precinct via Central Ave, can bypass the entire project by using Bulong and Boulder, or avoid half of it by using Morrison and Lyle to reach Great Eastern?
I'll make no comment.
Can the City please publish the latest 5-year to December 2023 Main Roads WA crash data for Stanton, Lyle, Bulong and First Street, please?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, we'll happily provide that information.
Thank you. My last question. After the mooring speed humps, Lyle went from 1,200 to 2,500 vehicles per day. The City said the speed bumps had no bearing on this. For the City to assist the residents in the future, this belief would need to alter significantly. Lyle Street residents have expressed concern about rat running out of area cars for the past 3 years. Hundreds of cars travelling towards Great Eastern Highway between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m, hundreds more during the day and late into the night. Because we did not breach the desired 3,000 vehicles per day, and because we did not register any 85th percentile speed deemed high enough due to the averaging with the existing slow points at Lyle, with 2 petitions for help, we were unable to convince the City we had a problem. Post the Stanton project, will the City be applying the same decision matrix to Lyle and other city side roads? i.e., is it the case that other roads will not register a rat run or traffic issue with the City if they do not breach 3,000 vehicles and there is no evidence of speeding? E.g., if Bulong and Boulder go from 1,000 to 2,500 vehicles per day, is that going to trigger a response? And can you please explain the process that will be used to assist residents in the future?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. As you're probably aware, Mr Cardozo, we have engaged a traffic consultant to undertake a wider Redcliffe traffic study of that area. And any decision on any future traffic calming in that area will be based on the findings of that report. Council will engage with the community with regard to that report, and obviously a report will come to Council probably the later part of this year with the findings of that report and if any action on traffic calming that is required within the wider Redcliffe area, including Lyle, Stanton, Morrison and the other roads. But we will need to wait on the findings of that study.
All right, thank you, Mr CEO.
Paul Hitt?
The City of Belmont has a reasonably high ratio of low socioeconomic families living within its boundaries and people who have not reached their full potential educationally wise. This would include our Indigenous population. For many of our residents would not fully understand the legal aspects of libel and defamation and remarks that are negative in nature. Do you agree?
I make no comment.
Oh, The council recently passed a motion where the City of Belmont would pay councillors for legal proceedings against a resident or ratepayer who they perceived as committing an act of slander or libel against the council. Is this correct?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. You're probably aware that Council adopted a policy in this regard.
Well, that's why I asked the question. I therefore must come to the conclusion that it could be seen that the council is discriminating against the not well educated, the both local and Indigenous population, and also the people who have a lack of education in this area of the law. This would make individuals reticent about coming to a council meeting and presenting their statement or questions. Is this a policy to dissuade people from actually attending meetings and asking questions? If they don't fully understand the law, whether they could be liable or not, I think I would be reticent about coming, especially if I was an Indigenous person.
Mr CEO?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. The short answer is no, it's not.
Thank you.
Jared Harris?
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors, city officers and public gallery. I'm Jared Harris of Cloverdale. I believe the Stanton calming installation is currently planned for July with completion in August. How soon after the installation is the city planning to conduct the first traffic counts?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. That will be dependent on, obviously, a decision that we made later tonight as to whether or not that proceeds or not, and I'm not in a position to be able to provide that an answer, a definitive answer on that question at this point in time.
Okay. Will future Belmont LCERS projects feature any specific modifications to the public engagement approach taken during the Stanton project?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Your Worship. Any projects that proceed will obviously include community engagement with regard to whatever the LCAS programme is proposing. But yes, there will certainly be community engagement in future with any programme.
Third question?
Okay. The budget on page 429 includes $100,000 for the Organisational Cultural Training Program. Last year, a similar amount funded the Human Synergistics and Business Excellence programs. To a layperson, these consultant fees appear to be high-priced corporate jargon. What benefit do Belmont residents see from these programs?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. What I can tell you is, although that was budgeted, those funds were not expended and that funds has been carried forward. There was obviously a delay in the recruitment of the executive team. We now have 2 new directors on board, and that cultural journey is designed to review the culture of this organisation, trying to embrace leadership, accountability, responsibility, and ensure the desired culture we have enables this organisation to be an employer of choice within the industry. But that's the reason why the funds have been rebudgeted this year, and the programme will commence in August.
Next question.
Final question. In both texts of the Strategic Community Plan and the Corporate Business Plan tonight, there are no real performance measures to judge our success, only a goal to keep good scores in the annual community survey. The closest we get on page 229 is to say that, quote, council will monitor real and perceived performance levels from various sources, end quote, without specifying what those sources or measures are. Vic Park, Bayswater and Bassendean all include real performance measures in their strategic community plans. Without objective performance goals and metrics, our plans are little more than a motivational poster. Why have we produced plans containing no objective measures of our success?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. Obviously, the Strategic Community Plan and the Corporate Business Plan are high-level strategic documents, and those performance indicators are developed in accordance with the service areas. But I'll happily take that question on notice and provide a bit more detail.
Okay, thank you.
Liz Hollins for personal questions.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Firstly, I don't give consent to be on camera, and any consent, perceived consent is done under duress. I'd like to say it's nice to see Janet Powell back on council and wish her all the best for the next 15 months or whatever. Okay, personal questions. The city has at least one electric vehicle charger in the basement of the hub, maybe there's more. Due to the potential fire risk, we are hearing of electric chargers, in addition to the difficulty extinguishing fires they may cause. I believe that even some insurance companies may be making it difficult to get insurance. So my question, how many electric vehicles and charger does the city have? And was there a risk assessment done on the chargers before installation? And if so, is the assessment a public document or just something else we are not entitled or privy to? Because I note Vic Park had to move theirs away from the building due to the risk.
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. I'll need to take that question on notice.
Okay, thank you. I've asked before about the city not being user-friendly to our seniors and those with disabilities, specifically trying to force people to use online booking systems and to attend events and use the city's facilities. I've been assured that the people can come to the city and staff will help and they can pay at the cashier. Last week I heard that a volunteer, at least for the Garvey Park planting, had to fill in an online form. So my question, is the CEO prepared to instruct staff to actively promote all advertising material which already advises the online way of doing things, an addition that can be made to include to the effect of coming into the office or phone to do such business like it was pre-COVID?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. I'll take that on notice just to clarify whether or not that's actually included currently, but I'll take that question on notice.
Yeah, I have noticed with a couple of Facebook posts it hasn't been, and I've commented to let people know that they can come in. That's all I asked. The councillors are voting on the budget tonight, which includes $220,000 of spending on hanging baskets, which even made it to the radio, thanks to somebody, which wasn't me, telling the rumour about it. So my question, of that cost, can you advise what the financial component might be for any installation of poles or equipment for the system that allows the gravity feed, as opposed to the cost of the baskets and plants and staff time to do it?
Thank you, Worship. Given the questions asking for specific detail, I'll need to take that on notice.
Okay, that's it for my personal questions.
Thank you. You can go on to the Bragg questions. Thank you.
Thank you. With respect to the Stanton Road impact statement on tonight's agenda, we wrote to the CEO and councillors on the 18th of June asking, and I quote, "In the interest of openness and transparency, we ask that our council support this item being moved to a public item with a confidential attachment, which has been done many times in the past. If you keep this behind closed doors, your vote will not be secret, as the vote itself will be public. How it got there will remain confidential, and this will lead to more angst in the community. The community wants transparency and secrecy." The CEO response commented on other parts of the letter, but not the bit relating to allowing the item to be public with a confidential attachment, as has been done previously. So my question, was the legal advice from an external practice or an in-house from our legal expert, and why was the legal advice not put as a confidential attachment so that any debate would be public and therefore transparent?
Mr CEO, can you answer that?
I can, Your Worship. Thank you. The standing orders do not require a statement of impact to be separated out into the statement of legal implications and financial implications. So they're presented to council as a whole. Whether that advice was provided by an outhouse or in-house legal is irrelevant, is being provided by a legal practitioner. And basically, the discussion that we've had previously around the financial implications overlaps the legal implications that are contained within the report. And the reality is the standing orders and the Local Government Act allows for the city to deal with this matter behind closed doors in accordance with the Act. Thank
I'm
you, Your
aware
Worship.
of that, Mr CEO, but
Next
again,
question.
we have had in the past confidential documents lodged with a public item, if you like, and why couldn't that be done this time though? Especially with something so important where you've had 500 odd people on a signature of a petition.
Is there anything else you wish to add, Mr CEO?
Well, other than I've said that the standing orders allow for a statement of impact to be presented to council, and that statement of impact includes financial and legal implications, and that statement of impact is being presented tonight behind closed doors in accordance with the requirements of the Act. Thank you, Your Worship.
Next question, thank you.
Under the Local Government Act, what role does a local government have in an election, and is there a section of the Act that allows for a local government to issue any directives to a returning officer which are expected to be implemented? And if so, can you provide what section that would allow this?
Mr CEO?
Yeah, well, thank you, Your Worship. I'll need to take that question on notice.
Okay, thank you. And my final question. Residents have expressed their concerns that councillors are taking leave of absence at ratepayers' expense. The general view is that if somebody puts their hand up to do the job, they should be doing it, not taking time off at the expense of ratepayers. Under the Act, councillors can get leave of absence, so there's no wrongdoing by any councillor that asked to have this, which I've had to explain to residents on a number of occasions. In respect of Councillor VJ, we have written to Council advising the relevant sections of the Act and indicate leave does not have to be granted, along with other options that you might have in respect to this situation. So my question, prior to granting leave to Councillor VJ in March this year, were our councillors advised of what their options were, including the provisions of the relevant sections of the Act that could be applied?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. Councillors are fully aware of the Local Government Act and the options available to them when granting a leave of absence.
Okay, thank you.
Janet G.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors and gallery. I do not consent to being on camera and perceived consent is under duress. I first would like to just mark the passing of Bill Childs, who spent many years attending council meetings, not only questioning the council but offering compliments as well. He did a lot for the wider community, believing people were worth more than money and will be sadly missed. Thank you. Questions. Last week's briefing session, a housing item was discussed and noted that the owner took the council officers to SAT over their decision because it didn't meet the council's planning, etc., and would therefore set a precedence. Why, therefore, did officers recommend that a 5-storey development on Abernethy Road be allowed, and the council chose to use their discretion and vote for it to go ahead? It was over the R100 rating. It was more than 4 stories that the officers said was allowed, and it has now set a precedence along Abernethy Road.
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. I may defer that to the Director of Development and Communities, but Council did consider that item and moved to support that.
Director of Development and Community?
Through the Chair, the reasons for the officer recommending support for the development would have been outlined in the report.
Next question, please.
It would seem it's one rule for one item and another rule for another. When will councillors stop worrying about what happens if it goes to SAT?
I don't know if that's just a generalised question, which councillors can consider. Mr CEO?
Could I ask Ms G to repeat the question, please, and whether it will be deferred to the Director? Thank you.
Okay, it seems that it's one rule for one item and another rule for another. When will councillors stop worrying about what happens if it goes to SAT? Oh, we can't let it go to SAT. We could do this, it could do that, and we'll be counted and everything else. We need to start looking. We've set a precedence with this 5-storey when I was told it was 4 stories, but yet this other one, you don't want to let it go through because it's going to set a precedence.
CEO?
Thank you, Worship. I'll try to answer part of it, and then I'll hand on to the director. I would suggest that council determines each application based on its merits, not as you claim they do, but I'll pass on to the director who may want to add to that.
Director of Development and Communities.
Through the chair, it's the same set of rules. It's the planning scheme and the state and local planning framework that a development is assessed against. There's a requirement for decision makers, or in this case, council, to exercise discretion as to whether or not a development should be approved. Councillors are required to exercise their quasi-judicial duty in considering whether or not it meets the requirements of the planning scheme. The councillor's role in determining planning matters is not one of representing or advocating for constituents. It's one of determining a planning application on its merits and whether it meets the requirements of the planning scheme.
Next question, please.
Well, my only question is, you set a precedence with that one. When are you going to set the next precedence with a 6-storey along there as well?
Director of Development Communities, can you answer that?
Through the chair, the matter of precedent for each application would be explained in the report, and it would vary from application to application. As previously mentioned, each application is determined on the merit of that particular application.
Any further questions?
Well, just one then. What does R100 really mean when on 2 lots on Abernethy you have gone well over the R100 code, which is 1.3 per 100 square metres of usage?
Director of Development and Communities.
Through the chair, under the R codes for single houses or group dwellings, the R100 has a prescribed minimum and average area per dwelling. For multiple dwellings, it relies on a plot ratio area or plot ratio. The R codes also provides for discretion to vary those standards, and within reason, council can, or a decision maker, be it council or DAP, can determine whether it is acceptable or the development meets the design principles of what the R codes has outlined to consider variations from that prescribed standard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Luigi, Rosler.
Thank you, Mayor and the Council be here tonight, and all the employees here. I'm going back to the last 2 council meetings when I asked questions regarding on the first street in Cloverdale, in Redcliffe. And I exchanged also some email and PDF, etc., with the council employee. I know on that street, as a report, was put some impediment for the traffic, to slow down the traffic or to reduce the speed, as I'm being told. Now, on the 13th of June report, in my opinion, there was quite dangerous to the driver, causing vehicle damage, motorbike probably killing himself, etc. I just passed again today, another 2 days ago, cutting short because of the way it get too long, and they changed the cushion. There was no cushion, it wasn't stored in first place, but was barrier using a car park not to go over the footpath or something like that. You can see something in Belmont shopping center. And then was very dangerous. Now, after I report the issue, I didn't say there was then the danger, I say it was very tough. Speed limit 30 kilometer sign. If you hit them at 30 kilometer, you lose the wheel of your car. If you are in the motorbike, you jump over the steering wheel. Anyway, they change. of course, to transpire logically, because when they do that, they had to close the road or had to have again all the security there with by the contractor, with the sign, etc., etc. So this place there is being inspected many times, and the job was done improperly, and they had to go back. And another issue I have with this when I'm asking questions regarding that place, they put some
Sorry,
bitumen.
Luigi, we need questions.
The question is, why is a job that was so quite simple to do, with all the inspection we carry out in Redcliffe with all the complying of the resident, the job had to be done twice, and was dangerous the first thing they put on, and also, in my opinion, they put some bitumen different color at the intersection where they said there was many crash happened. Now, the bitumen is nearly the same color the other, and normally to warn people danger, they put in white strip, alert the driver when they go over, like the one on the edge of the road when you travel interstate or national road. So they fall asleep, the people woke up. I think the council, your question is why our money is spent so badly. Really, that is the point.
The question is, how is our money being spent? So the Acting Director of Infrastructure Services, you've been listening. Are you able to answer any of that? Would you like to take it on notice?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The initial treatment at the intersection of Boulong and First Street, after it was first put down, analysis of crash data showed that despite the presence of the stop sign and stop line, some vehicles were still heading north and were not stopping at the intersection. To improve safety at the location, signage was increased and a red asphalt plateau, as Mr. Roslin has just identified, was installed in Boulong Avenue, and this was to increase motorists' awareness. In addition, as a complementary measure, speed cushions were installed in First Street to reduce the speed of oncoming vehicles near the intersection. All devices, signs and line markings have been approved by Main Roads of Western Australia.
Next question, please.
Sorry, but the question I'm asking why the job is done properly, why in first place was not cushion put in the middle of the road, but was put barrier. That they are not slowing down vehicles, they are breaking the back of people like me, they have a problem with the back, they damage the vehicle. The answer they giving the employee here and your officer is not answering that. And why the job is done twice?
To be fair, that's your opinion, but our officers are saying otherwise. So can I have would you be able to add anything more to it in considering what's being done there? Acting Director of Infrastructure Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have to take the rest of that question on notice.
Next question, please.
That's a more question. I don't know if the council are aware, the employee of the council work in the library for sure they know. Recently, I've been, normally I don't go to the library, but I was very aware and all around the issue, LGBT book for children, etc., as was the news on TV and broadcast in regard. Now, when I visit the library here, the Hub, I noted probably 2-3 weeks ago, it was LGBT book on the shelf from 6 to 13 years old children. So I asked to speak with the manager came down, he told me they're receiving a list from some organization, probably government one, and they decide to put out the book, etc., etc. When I spoke with him, he said he was a man, he asked all my data, my detail, I give the email, everything. And he said he was writing back to me, but I didn't see anything coming. Anyway, at that time, I go back after spoke with him, the book can be taken out. I go back after 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I just go in, just go straight to the shelf. Instead of one book, there was at least 2. I didn't go to the children below 6 years of age. All the style, just first spot. There was another please. 2 where this book It's LGBT and LGBT is okay. They are allowed by law, etc. But in my opinion, say not right children 13 years old, they can pick up. They say to me the parents' responsibility. No, I just say to the council, to the employee government here, they are paid by us, right? By if they are obligated to put out such book being put on the list, what direction you like to give to the library in regard. And on my old lady was putting story about Jesus Christ or the thing like that. Now it's there. They're promoting LGBT, beautiful men dressed as a woman, and it's okay. But I don't think it's not appropriate for young children. And
I'll get a response for you from the Director of Development and Communities. Would you like to take that in question? Yeah, we'll answer that.
Thank you, Worship. I think it's important to note that I was made aware of your visit to Ruth Faulkner Library. And I think what we need to also bear in mind is that we want to provide a space for everyone to belong and materials that reflect the diversity of our community. We trust that individuals will make their own decisions in which type of books they read, and procurement materials and services are governed by professional consideration and not political, moral or religious views. And parents have a right to guide their children in their reading. One of the city's strengths is that our community is a diverse community, and we have people from different perspectives that exist within the city. I also believe it's a great thing about living in Australia is that people have the freedom to be different without persecution or discrimination. The Ruth Faulkner Library aims to provide a space for everyone to belong. This includes providing resources that represent our diverse community, including those that explore different sexual orientations, gender identities and expressions. And we want to create an environment where everyone, regardless of their background or identity, feels represented and acknowledged. Thank you, Worship.
Any further questions?
yes, my question was not if it was illegal or not. If I don't know, I ask the question simply if the council are aware about the councillor and the employee of the council are subject to the list sent, or they can make a choice which book to put out. Now, the question is, I'm talking about book that influence young children. And we can have many opinions, but you know very well the controversy around, and you know what I'm talking about. It's up to you.
Thank you. We
Thank
are
you.
now aware. Thank you. Matt Russell.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff and fellow members of the public gallery. My name is Matt Russell of Cloverdale. My first question is, could you please explain how the budget line items are compared year on year?
I'll have to go to the CEO because the director stepped out.
I might defer that to the manager of finance, but if she's unable to answer it, I can provide some commentary.
Manager of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Each year the budget is actually developed from a zero-based budget, so we actually assess all of our requirements for that specific year and we budget on that basis.
Question?
My second question is, consultation for the arts and culture strategy was completed in June last year. Can you provide an update on when the strategy will be released?
Director of Corporate and Governance? No? Who? Director of Development Communities, sorry.
Sorry, through the chair, could I get Mr. Russell to repeat the question, please?
Sure. The consultation for the arts and culture strategy was completed in June last year. Can you please provide an update on when the strategy will be released?
I'll take the question on notice and get back to Mr. Russell.
Your third question?
During the consultation for the strategic community plan, it was discussed that projects could be prioritised and updates given with a traffic light style reporting system. Will we see this occur?
Mr. CEO?
I'll take that on notice because that's still under development, but I'll take that question on notice and provide a response.
My fourth question is, when questions are taken on notice, could a reason be provided for why they are taken on notice for better transparency? This is already standard practice in some neighbouring councils.
Mr. Seer?
Thank you, Worship. We take questions on notice, one, because we perhaps don't have all the information available to us when a question is asked, and we need to obviously find out details, as you've seen tonight, a question about how much, or a breakdown of a cost of a budget line item to do with polls and a number of things. So they're generally taken on notice because we can't answer the question here tonight. Often, if questions are provided in advance of this meeting, prior to the meeting, then we're in a position to be able to provide a comprehensive response. The other issue as well is we obviously want to make sure that the response we give is accurate and as comprehensive as it needs to be. So that's the reasons why we take them on notice. But if questions were provided in advance of this meeting, we would certainly be taking a lot less on notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. There being no more questions, I close public question time at 7:16. Move on to the matrix for the agenda briefing forum of the 18th of June. Are there any questions on the matrix? If there's none, we'll have a move and a second to receive and note the matrix. Moved by Councillor Sessions, seconded by Councillor Davis. We'll now vote. Voting is now open. Please use the buttons on your microphone screen. Councillor Marks, if you could show Councillor Powell. We're just having a little technical issue, so you may have to wait. I just said there's a little technical issue. Please be patient. Thank you. We'll get there. And we're ready to vote. You're not voting yet. There we have 8. Unanimous. Thank you. Come on. 6.2, Ordinary Council meeting held on 28th of May. Are there any questions on the minutes, please? You got a question? Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Kulczycki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did identify one error that I'd want to clarify. It's on page 117 of the minutes. There was a foreshadowed motion that was moved by Councillor Sekula, and I noticed that it was seconded by Councillor Davis, and the minutes reflect that I seconded that motion.
We'll have that amended. If there are no other questions, we'll have need a move and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Sekula, seconded by Councillor Davis. Voting is now open. Please use the buttons on your microphone. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Questions by members of which due notice has been given. Without discussion, there are none. Questions by members taken without notice, please. There is none. Questions by members without there are none. New business of urgent nature approved by the presiding member or by decision. Is there any new business of urgent nature? There are none. Business adjourned from the previous meeting. There are none. Reports of committees. There are none. 12. Reports of administration. Items were withdrawn. We have some already been withdrawn. We would still go through each one. 12.1. Development application for group dwelling. No one. Extension of temporary use. Councillor Sessions. Oh, yes?
I'll withdraw that because I think the people deserve the right to have it withdrawn, even though no one wants to, if there's a seconder.
Just to confirm, you're withdrawing 12.1.
12.1, if there's a seconder.
Right, thank you. We'll move on. 12.2, Councillor Sessions. 12.3, revised local planning policy number 12. 12.4, strategic community plan, corporate business plan, a long-term financial plan. 12.5 delegation register. 12.6 will be withdrawn anyway because due to the nature of the item, we have to do some voting there. 12.7 adoption of the annual budget for 2024-2025 has been withdrawn. 12.8 accounts for payment. 12.9 monthly financial report for May. There's no one. So, I have a move and a second to adopt the balance of the reports en bloc with the absolute majority decision, with the exceptions of 12.1, 12.2, 12.6 and 12.7. I need a mover. Councillor Sessions, a seconder. Councillor Marx. We'll now vote. Voting is now open. Please use the buttons. Carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. For those people present in the gallery, please note that those items that have not been withdrawn have now been adopted by Council. You're welcome to stay, of course, and observe the remainder of tonight's proceedings. We may wish to leave when convenient. As outlined previously, please do not rely on any council decision until formal notification has been received in writing. Thank you. First one is 12.1. It was moved by Councillor Marx. I need a seconder. Councillor Sessions.
Right.
Over to you, Councillor Marx.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've removed this because people are probably at home watching or maybe in the gallery, and it would be of some importance to the gentleman involved, and I don't want this to go straight through without us saying something which would give him some idea. Because I was present back in about 2001 when this type of policy was put forward, and I think Councillor Powell was there as well, and maybe yourself. And it is important to the City of Belmont that the policy continues and continues as it is, because this is the manner in which we have rebuilt Belmont. And the planning department at the time under Mr Neville Deeg had the idea that if we were not to remove old houses that need work done on them, if we were to let them stand with someone saying to us that, look, I haven't got the money to fix it up, I can't do it, or I don't want to do it, then we are in the position where we end up with a society full of this type of old housing. Now, especially when we had old Homes West housing which was of asbestos nature, they had to be removed, and that is why this came about. Now, tonight we have seen that the people at this council obviously understand it, that we cannot let them just stand. If you don't want to do anything to them, then they have to come down or they have to stay. You just cannot develop at the back and let them stand. You must do something to them to upgrade them so that the housing stock in the City of Belmont goes ahead and doesn't remain stagnant in an old, dilapidated way. So it is of a lot of importance that the people who have brought this forward to us understand what the situation. It's not just a matter of us saying, look, we don't like you, or we don't think you're right, or it is an absolute necessity for people who live in this community that we go forward and remove old homes or have them done up. So we just can't go ahead and make decisions that would leave them in their present state. Thank you.
Councillor Sessions, as a seconder.
No comments, Mr Mayor.
Speak on it. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. Yeah, I was in two minds with this this motion, and I did speak to the Director of Planning about it. So basically, the applicant will be able to build their house and then have 6 months after that until they have to demolish the front house. But it's really important that we remain consistent with the planning codes, and it's necessary to determine that, like I said, we have to remain consistent, but also there are other applications exactly the same as this. And so what do we do then? So do we let this one go through, and then, then the other ones will say, well, can we go through as well? We have to be consistent. It's part of the future of the City of Belmont. It's part of the town planning. I think they've got the opportunity to build their house, live in the front, and then they have 6 months later, then they can demolish it. It might take 5 years, it might take 3. So I think it's a fair recommendation. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Kulczycki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the officer recommendation and the sentiments that have been shared by Councillor Marks and Councillor Davis. The existing dwelling is not compatible with the desired future character of its setting, and in fact the subject property falls within the area defined by the local planning scheme policy number 1, which aims to achieve the highest standards of streetscape and quality living environments within the town centre precinct. And granting approval to what was requested by the applicant would be contrary to proper and orderly planning and would set an unprecedented precedent. The applicant should not be seeking an exception to the rules that everyone else is following, performing subdivisions within Belmont, and deviating from the established process would form a dangerous precedent.
Thank you. Anybody else? No. We'll go back to the mover. Councillor Marks.
Nothing more to say. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you. We'll now move to the vote. Voting is now open. It's on the screen. Councillor Powell and... Oh, gone too fast. Councillor Powell still. You'll get used to it. You pressed it? Keep on going. And we've got it. Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Now move to 12.2. Moved by Councillor Sessions. We need a seconder. Councillor Sakula. Over to you, Councillor Sessions.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Do you want me to read the alternative motion or just my reasons?
No, you need to let us know what the alternative motion is, and then also, of course, read the reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my alternative council motion for 12.2 is that council refuse planning application 6/2024 as detailed in plans dated 28th of May 2024, submitted by Hidding Urban Planning on behalf of the owner, Priyanka Chamari Ahangama Gamajdon and Roshana Chalaratine Nilagama Jalagi. I'm sorry, I should have practiced that beforehand. For the extension of the development approval to continue use as a holiday house for the following reasons. 1. Having regard for clause 67(2)(b) of the Planning and Development Local Planning Scheme Regulations 2015 and Objective 4C of Draft Local Planning Policy number 19, the use would adversely impact the character and amenity of the surrounding residential area or nearby residents. Item 2, having regard for clause 67(2)(b) of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulation 2015, approval would be contrary to proper and orderly planning and would set an undesirable precedent. 3, having regard for clause 67(2)(n) of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015 and clause 1.6f of Local Planning Scheme number 15, the use would adversely impact the character and amenity of the locality. And finally, item 4, having regard for clause 67(2)(w) of the Planning and Development Local Planning Scheme Regulation 2015, the previous history of the site, including the operation of the use under the previous approval. Whew. And my reasons are: local planning policy number 19, LPP 19, is seriously entertained. Policy objective C of LPP 19 states, ensure short-term rental accommodation does not adversely impact on the character and amenity of the surrounding residential area or nearby residents. Residents were impacted for 12 months prior to the original planning application even being approved by council, whilst the owners operated without approval, allowing guests to disrupt the neighbourhood. During the 12 months of approval, they only had 2 bookings. The first booking breached the property management plan in multiple ways, including, but not limited to, lockbox access for key handover, a booking of less than the 7-day minimum, and non-functioning sound monitors. If we allow this planning application to be renewed, we are setting a precedent that the City of Belmont consistently allows rule breaches. We need to be very strong with our STRA policy and show our residents that we do not allow such adverse impacts. The proponent has not shown ability to comply with planning conditions, both in operating without approval and then operating without following the management plan. All 11 submissions received about this item were not in support of planning approval for the short-term rental. Excuse me. LPS 15, Special Development Precinct, states that developments in this area must not generate nuisances detrimental to the amenity of the precinct's residents. The Planning and Development Local Planning Scheme Regs 2015 state that we as a council must consider the impact of the development on the community as a whole, notwithstanding the impact of development on particular individuals. The adjoining neighbours have been severely impacted by breaches of this short-term rental property. And finally, Clause 67 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015 gives regard to the previous history of the site, including operation under previous approval. Therefore, I don't believe that we should agree to this planning application.
Thank you.
Question, Mr Mayor?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Is the application or the alternate or the motion put forward by the officers still apply, or I did hear an inkling that this had been withdrawn? Is that correct or not?
Director of Development Communities, can you clarify?
Through the chair, I don't quite understand the question. Can Councillor Marks please repeat?
The idea of the temporary approval that was put forward by the officers, is that still standing? And I understand that this is another motion put forward by Councillor Sessions, but is that still a standing, or was there something amiss there? I did hear that it wasn't considered correct.
Director, please go ahead.
Through the chair, council has the option to either consider Councillor Sessions' alternative motion. The officer recommendation is for the the holiday house to be approved for a period of 12 months only. And on the expiry of that approval, if the landowner wishes, they can reapply, and the proposal can then be considered in the context of any revised state planning framework, as well as the impending local planning policy for short stay accommodation in the City of Belmont.
Councillor Marks, go ahead. Use your mic, please, so we can all hear.
This is a temporary approval for 12 months, is that correct?
Through the chair, the officer recommendation is for temporary approval. Councillor Sessions' alternative motion is for refusal of any short stay holiday home use.
Any further questions, Councillor Marks? No? We move to the seconder, Councillor Sakula.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Sessions, for putting forth this alternate motion. I feel very uncomfortable with approving such an application. The Ascot estate has a very special and unique character, I guess, and it doesn't lend itself to this type of application. I think it's important to note as well that in the past 12 months, the vacation home hasn't actually complied with the expectations that have been set out by the city. And I think it's important, as we've already mentioned with the other item on the agenda, the importance of being consistent in terms of the application of our our expectations and rules. The responses from the residents on the Ascot estate seem to indicate that there's been a negative impact as a result of a vacation home in this area, and I think it's important that we do take on board the concerns that these individuals have made, and so based on that, I would refuse this application. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak on it? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a touchy subject because all around and in and around the area of the City of Belmont there are such homes that are short stay, and I'd be inclined to think the 12 months that the recommendation by the council probably should be allowed.
Councillor Kudjitsky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with the alternative motion that has been presented before us. The draft Local Planning Policy 19 for short-term rental accommodation has recently been completed and advertised, and due regard is required. And there are two aims of this policy that are very important. One being ensuring that the short-term rental accommodation is appropriate for its location by being located near other short-term accommodation and tourist accommodation uses. This site does not. Another aim is to safeguard the primary purpose of residential areas in providing residential dwellings which are affordable and available on a long-term basis. So by refusing this development application, we are adding to at least one more home to the market for long-term residential accommodation. So on those points, and with the points that have been presented in the alternative motion, I believe we should proceed.
Anybody else wishes to speak? If not, we will go back to the mover, Councillor Sessions.
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. I guess with this refusal, I would just like it to send a message to all future short-term rental accommodation applicants that we have very high expectations in the City of Belmont.
Thank you. Just check to see the voting is open. Voting is now open. Please use the buttons on your microphone screen. The vote is carried, 6 votes to 2. $12.6. Nominations for committees and advisory groups. If any positions remain vacant after this evening, they will be considered at the next ordinary council meeting in July 2024, next month. The Executive Committee. Councillor Powell, you're entitled to be a member of the Executive Committee. Would you please confirm your nomination? Yes. Thank you very much. So we've received nomination from Councillor Powell to be a member of the Executive Committee. I declare Councillor Powell elected to the position of the Executive Committee member. Thank you. Now, we have a position for proxy member of the Access and Inclusion Advisory Group. Councillor Powell, would you like to be on that? Yes. Okay. Is there anybody else that wishes to nominate for that position as proxy? If not, Councillor Powell. I declare Councillor Powell elected to the position of Access and Inclusion Advisory Group proxy member. We now move to the Belmont Business Advisory Group proxy member. Councillor Powell, would you like to be on that one there as proxy member? Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to be proxy member? If not, I declare Councillor Powell elected to the position of Belmont Business Advisory Group proxy member. Now we move to the Public Art Advisory Panel. We already have a nomination from Councillor Kulczycki. Councillor Powell, would you like to be on that too, or anybody else? Yes. Okay, so we'll have to have an election. Is there anybody else that wishes to go on it?
No, I withdraw my nomination.
Withdraw your nomination? Are you sure? Did I miss Audit and Risk? No, because she's automatically on that. Yeah. That'll be read at the end. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. That's good. Now, back to the Public Art Advisory Panel. Just to clarify, I heard you don't wish to go on that now? Yes. Okay, that will be available if Councillor Kulczycki gets that position. Anybody else wishes to nominate for that position? If not, then I declare Councillor Kulczycki as the elected position of Public Art Advisory Panel member. And as Councillor Kulczycki is elected to the position of Public Art Advisory Panel member, this now creates a vacancy for the proxy member. Would you like to be proxy member, Councillor Powell? All right. Anybody else wishes to nominate for the proxy member? If not, I declare Councillor Powell elected to the position of Public Art Advisory Panel proxy member. Now we have WA Local Government Association East Metropolitan Zone proxy voting delegates. Councillor Powell?
Can I ask who the delegate is?
Could we be reminded who the delegates are? I believe Councillor Zakula and Councillor Ryan, is that correct? Yep.
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay. Anybody else wishes to nominate for it? No? If there's no other nominations, I declare Councillor Powell elected to the position of WA Local Government Association East Metropolitan Zone proxy voting delegate. Now we'll formally vote, that Council appoint the newly elected South Ward Councillor as a member of the Executive Committee. Appoint the newly elected South Ward Councillor as proxy member to the Standing Committee Audit and Risk. Appoint the following elected member to the Access and Inclusion Advisory Group as proxy member, Councillor Powell. Appoint the following elected member to the Belmont Business Advisory Group as proxy member, Councillor Powell. Appoint the following elected member to the Public Art Advisory Panel. The member will be Councillor Kulczycki. And the proxy will be Councillor Powell. Appoint the following elected member, WA Local Government Association East Metropolitan Zone, as proxy voting delegate, Councillor Powell. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Sessions, seconded by Councillor Davis. Voting is now open. One more. Councillor Powell. We've got it now. Voted unanimously. Well done to everybody involved. We'll now move to 12.7, adoption of the 2025 annual budget. We have one business of interest declaration. One further one, I mean.
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. We've received a disclosure of interest in the nature of an impartiality interest from Councillor Sekula. The nature of the interest being disclosed is that Councillor Sekula is a member of the City of Belmont RSL. He is a member of the Ascot Junior Eagles Cricket Club, a member of the Ruth Faulkner Library, and a member of the Notre Dame Catholic Church. Thank you, Mayor Rossi.
Councillor Powell? Would you like to fill it in now? You've got it there? I'll just fill it in. We'll just give you a minute.
Mr Mayor,
Councillor Ryan?
I just want to disclose I'm a member of the RSL in Belmont.
Have you filled in the form?
No.
Could you please fill it in now? Thank you so much. Will the Manager of Governance and Legal read out the two disclosures of interest, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. We've received a disclosure of interest from Councillor Powell in relation to this item number 12.7. It's an impartiality interest on the basis of her membership of the RSL. We've also received a disclosure of interest from Councillor Ryan in the nature of an impartiality interest in relation to this item 12.7 on the basis of Councillor Ryan also being a member of the RSL Belmont. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Powell, you've only just received the confidential attachments for this item this evening. Under local government regulations, the City of Belmont's Code of Conduct for elected members, as an elected member, you're required to base your decisions on relevant and factual correct information and make decisions on merit and principles of good governance and procedural fairness. Elected members are also required to read all agenda papers given to them in relation to council or committee meetings. Councillor Powell, would you like the opportunity of an adjournment to read the confidential attachment for this item 12.7? May I have a move and a second to adjourn the meeting to allow Councillor Powell sufficient time to read through the confidential attachments? Moved by at 7:50. Councillor Sessions, seconded by Councillor Davis. We'll just vote. Voting is now open. Please use the buttons on your screen. Thank you. Carried unanimously. I hereby close the adjournment and reopen the proceedings. Thank you, Councillor Powell. I would now like to advise, in accordance with section 5.232B of the Local Government Act 1995, if there are any questions or debate on the confidential attachments for item 12.7, adoption of the 2024-2025 annual budget, the council will need to go behind closed doors. Are there any questions by any other councillors? There are none. No. We now move to the formal adoption of the annual budget. We have an alternative councillor motion, moved by Councillor Sessions, seconded by Councillor Marx. Over to you, Councillor Sessions.
Thanks, Mayor Rossi. Just before we talk about this item, I don't know if it's coming up on the screen. I know there was a second alternative motion for this item as well. I don't know if the two if you guys want to discuss combining the two, if that's an option.
I'm not fully aware what the second one is, so I haven't yet seen it.
We'll go ahead with this one. Can you put it on the screen?
Get that on the screen for you. And can I just withdraw that? I just said I do remember it now. I'm just trying to keep up to date with everything. Yes, so please go ahead. And have you asked your question to the person who moved here?
Would you like to add your item to this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm curious to learn about the sentiment amongst the council as to what their thoughts are on this proposed amended motion, and to then consider whether I include this or include my foreshadowed motion as part of this motion. Is that possible, Mr. Mayor?
Anything is possible, but let's proceed then, and then you could foreshadow at any time. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Sessions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support the addition of item 18 to this item. I think that it's expensive. It's expensive for people to live at the moment, and any money that we can give that helps kids who want to travel for sport to go out and represent Belmont, I think is a very good thing, and that's why I completely support this.
Seconder wishes to speak?
I think it's about a 25% increase, Mr. Mayor, and I think that's an acceptable amount. Certainly, I seem to remember the kids who got this for travelling and so forth, their sporting grants. Some of them were representing Western Australia, all over Australia, and it's a very small amount of money we're giving them. Really, I suspect we should be raising it a lot more than that, but $50 at this stage is okay. Thank you.
Councillor Davis?
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. I'd like to support the alternative motion for the increase of sporting and cultural grants for youth and Belmont residents. I would like to revisit this grant in the budget review in September, October, because I don't think it is sufficient for the increase that's actually occurring at the present. So what I'll just give you is a couple of facts. Is domestic airlines since 2020 have increased by 56% around Australia. Hotel prices have increased nationally, especially Darwin and Brisbane have soared by 46%. Food costs, as everybody knows, has increased. I mean, all you've got to do is see your receipt when you've been to Coles or Woolies. Car hire has skyrocketed. So, a lot of these people that go to other states or countries hire a car to get to their events. In Sydney, it's increased by 72% to hire a car, Tasmania 92% and Victoria 38%. So I don't think the increase is in line with the inflation. But it's a start, and it's something that we can sort of review in a couple of months' time, and maybe have an information forum and really talk about what we want to do here. As we've mentioned, so I think somebody mentioned asking a question, Belmont is a low socio-economic area. There are parts that are low, that's for sure. And we have to support our talented young people in Belmont to allow them to grow and learn and represent Belmont nationally and internationally. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak on this? Councillor Sikora?
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, we have a wonderful understanding in our city that our youth become the centre of everything that we do, because obviously they are our future, and whatever we can do to support them, I think, is really important. And as a city, we've always done that. We've always been able to try to support our youth in a whole range of areas. And so I totally agree with what Councillor Sessions is putting forward in principle. But at the same time, I do agree with Councillor Davis. I think although the amount that is put forward is a good start, I think we do need to do a lot more for our youth. I believe that with the cost of living going up the way it has over the past year, I think we do need to consider an increase. So a review in six months' time would be very useful. At the same time, I would like to mention that the amendment that Chris is putting forward, I think, for item 17 is really, really important. And I'd like Chris to consider that to be included in this motion, because I think what you're saying adds value, and I think that's really important. And I think both elements would enhance that actual motion itself. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Kulczycki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your sentiments so far. I don't necessarily agree with Clause 18 of the alternative motion, as the purpose of the grant is to fund a private endeavour, and therefore there isn't a direct benefit to Belmont as a local government or as an area, but to the individual applicant themselves. However, it is a small component of the budget, and the matter that I wish to foreshadow relates to reporting of material variances, and ultimately that does have a greater impact upon the wider population of the city, both ratepayers and residents. And I would like the mover and the seconder to consider that I add my amendment and combine it together with this one.
And it is, could you read out your amendment, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my amendment read as follows: that Council adopts the budget as published, except for Part 17 of the officer recommendation that relates to setting of the materiality threshold, and I propose Council sets the threshold at $100,000 or 10%, whichever value is greater. And the reasons for this is that Council has a legislative responsibility for the performance of the local government's affairs and overseeing the allocation of finances and resources. Accordingly, Council must be aware of any material variances between the budget and actual performance to fulfil its duties. The assessment of these variances facilitates Council to adequately monitor the city's financial performance. The proposed materiality threshold is comparable to the threshold adopted by other local governments that are Tier 1, with budgets that are of similar and larger size compared to the City of Belmont. So to cite some examples, the City of Canning and Bayswater, they set theirs at $50,000 or 10%, and the cities of Swan, Wanneroo and Melville, they set theirs at $100,000 or 10%. Furthermore, based on my brief analysis of the variances published by example under item 12.9 of this agenda, the average variances is 137,000 and the percentage sits at about 11%. So if we were to adopt the threshold that was set on the published version of the recommendation, would lose visibility of approximately half of those variances that are currently reported to us. So if the mover and seconder are amenable to include that amendment to this alternative motion, then I'd then support this.
Councillor Sessions, you're the mover. Do you wish all of it or part of it to be included?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Could I ask Councillor Kulczewski if he will just go up to 100,000 and then remove that last line? Just leave it at 100,000, not the 10% as well?
Councillor Kulczewski, are you willing to modify yours?
I don't necessarily believe that we should remove the 10% threshold. It is a valuable component as smaller projects, if they exceed by 10% in variance, is material to that individual project. And we also have visibility as a local government and as council to any variances that do have an impact to our budget.
So, Councillor Sessions, Councillor Kulczewski is not willing to remove the 10%. So, do you wish to add that or leave that?
Mr Mayor, is it possible to ask the Director of Governance and Finance for his comment on this item regarding the 10%?
Governance, would you be able to speak on the 10%, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have given some significant thought and consideration to the 10% rule, and certainly we don't support it. We believe that the $100,000 figure would provide council with adequate oversight in the financial reports. We did give some examples of how the 10% on small budgets, you could have lots of reports of the variances, and I'm not too sure if council's role is to drill down to the extent that this would apply. We do employ a number of accountants to do that role. We also employ managers and project managers, directors, CEO to look after the day-to-day operational aspect of the council, and I believe the implication of that is by trying to drill down into the operation side of the business, for which employs quite an extensive staff to do so.
Thank you. Councillor Sessions, what do you wish to do? Do you wish to proceed with it or without it?
I would only like to proceed with the 100,000, not the 10%.
Councillor Marx, what would you wish? You please use your microphone so everyone can hear what you're saying.
No, I would go with the 100,000, Mr Mayor. In other words, I agree with Councillor Sessions.
Councillor Kulczewski, do you agree to that?
We do need to make a decision on the budget, and it has to be in the best interests of the community. We have been running so far with a threshold of $100,000. It is certainly a lot better for council's role of oversight to at least come to that compromise, so I'm willing to accept that variation.
Is to will only include that 100,000 and not remove the 10% variation.
Correct, Mr Mayor.
Great, thank you. Councillor Sessions, do you agree to that?
Yes, Mr
Marks,
Mayor.
do you agree to that? To make it formal, thank you. Who also would like to speak on this, please? Councillor Ryan.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree with Councillor Sessions. There's a lot of young people out there today in sport. They're very, very talented in the city of Belmont. One in particular who plays for the Belmont Bombers. He recently went to Adelaide and represented West Australia in an interstate game with South Australia. And these sort of people need a little bit of financial support because they don't come from rich families, and anything that they can achieve a lot if they can get a little bit of financial support from the City of Belmont. Thank you.
Anybody else wishes to speak on it who has not spoken? Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to ask a question first. These students who can ask for the grant, are they able to receive other grants as well? Can they be advised by the city?
Mr CEO, can you try?
I might need to take that on notice unless the Director of Development Communities could answer it. Obviously, these are sporting grants when they're representing their club or sport, the association, interstate and things like that. That doesn't preclude them from other funding, I would imagine, through sponsorship and other events where they may be raising funds to fund that. But whether they'd be accessing other grants associated with the city, such as the Community Contribution Fund, that would be based on its merits. But while I perhaps can't give you a definitive answer tonight, unless the Director can, I might take that on notice and provide councillors with an update on that.
Director of Development and Community, can you add to that?
Through the chair, nothing that the CEO has already said, Mr Mayor.
Any further question, Councillor Powell?
But I will speak on the matter.
Yes, please go ahead.
I think it's important to support students of any age within the City of Belmont. And I'm a bit disappointed with comments that there's no benefit for Belmont with students in private clubs or not working on behalf of Belmont, sports-wise. But we could make it part of the requirement of the grant that they come and talk to council or speak in the library and we can attend, just so that they feel part of the community because they're accessing funds from part of the community. It's quite a lot of money, whether we like to say it is or it isn't. It's still a fair whack, over $3,000. So, I would like it to be reviewed in 6 months with an idea that it would be looked at positively for the students to do something to benefit Belmont, for Belmont kids to learn from them.
Thank you. Anybody else has not spoken? Then I'd like to speak on my own motion. I picked $50 simply as being minimal with little impact on the budget this year. I would have aimed for really 150, but that would have created some problems, and I don't want to cause issues for the budget or the budget to go through. I love the idea by Councillor Davis that we look forward to reviewing this, because we really do need to review this. This is all about self-growth for people. This is one chance for some people to step out on the centre stage and represent their state, their country. The benefit to the people, to Belmont, is threefold. It makes for better people. It makes you feel important. It makes you feel like that you can go out there and achieve your goals. It is so important that we support these people in any small way we can, and whether it's international or state. And I agree, the costs of going interstate or overseas has gone through the roof, and if this small amount can help out, I'm all for it. Thank you. Back to Councillor Sessions.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I guess in summary, I do think this is really important. I know a couple of people who have received it recently, and they're only children. They have to fly with their parents. So overall, I think $400 for them to fly is actually nothing towards it. But I know that they appreciate it. It makes a difference. It makes the difference of them being able to go or not. So I support it. I support it being increased to more later in the year.
Voting is now open. Please use the buttons on your microphone screen. Carried unanimously. requests for leave of absence. We have none that I'm aware of. Notice of motion, there are none. Matters of which the meeting may be closed. I will now close the meeting in accordance with section 5.232C and D of the Local Government Act 95. May I have a move and a second to go behind closed doors. Moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Powell. At 8:18, we'll now do a vote. Please use the voting on your screen. One more. Oh. Councillor Davis. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Would the IT officer please pause the live stream? Would those in the public gallery please depart the chamber? Thank you for coming. Would the IT officer please restart the live streaming? We welcome back the public into the meeting. 14.1, Stanton Road Impact Statement. Moved by Sekula, seconded by Councillor Davis. That Council, 1, direct the CEO to pause implementation of Stanton Road Central Avenue to Epsom Avenue project until the findings of the Redcliffe Area Traffic Study are endorsed by Council. 2, direct the CEO to proceed with the Western Power lighting upgrade on Stanton Road and 2nd Street as per the current schedule. 3, direct the CEO to write to the residents and property owners within the Redcliffe study area, informing them of points 1 and 2 above and the impending Redcliffe area traffic study and the proposed timeframes. It was carried unanimously. 14.2, tender, supply of foam bitumen stabilisation. That Council accepts the officer's recommendation in relation to this item. Moved Councillor Sessions, seconded Councillor Davis. Carried unanimously. 14.3, tender, supply installation of turf. That Council accepts the officer recommendation in relation to this item. Moved Councillor Sessions, seconded Councillor Davis. Carried unanimously. 14.4, upgrade, supply, install of the lighting towers at Middleton Park. That Council accepts the officer recommendation in relation to this item. Moved Councillor Sessions, seconded Councillor Davis. Carried unanimously. Closure. There being no further business to conduct, I thank all those who've stayed and close the meeting at 9:42 p.m. Thank you, everybody.